Natural 20!
This video contains spoilers for Exandria Unlimited Calamity Episode 4. Hello everybody, my name is Luna and welcome to Crit Role Conspiracies, the show where we take a deep dive into all the little details of Critical Role. We have come to the end. It is the end of Calamity. I'm not ready to say goodbye. This is part 2 of my breakdown, so if you haven't seen part 1, go and check it out in the cards up here. I think it's this side. We return to the Archsept and Patia, who is having a bit of a heart-to-heart with her grandfather, although I think it's more of a heart-to-heart with herself. She is considering the legacy of her family and of this city, and she vows to try and end the cycle of selfishness that has brought about the events of the day. Snapping off the Librarium Incantatum that is in the model of Avalier that is floating in the center of this room, she calls back to her realization as she died earlier that if you have all of the knowledge in the world but it dies with you, then it doesn't matter. And she takes her orb, her arcane focus that has all of her memories in, all of her resources and collected knowledge, and she teleports that along with the library, the model of the library that is, to Maya, Seret's daughter. Okay, question, where do we think the orb is now? We know that Maya ended up in Guisar, which later becomes Taldore. Could it still be out there somewhere, waiting to be discovered by the Bells Hells maybe? Interestingly, Brennan calls out Patia's memories about her parents, asking Marisha, where do you think those memories have gone? And Marisha sort of shares out of character that like, oh, I never actually thought about her parents before. But Brennan clearly has other ideas because he narrates this scene of Amir saying, oh, I think it would be better to forget, you know, the city of Avalier, the dream must be perfect. And he essentially erased both his own and Patia's memories of her parents. I'm so curious that if maybe she had taken a little bit of time to look into that orb and see what those memories might be, what they could have revealed about her parents, and what they did to constitute such a failure. Loris of the Weaver's Mask comes into the Archsept and Patia makes her feelings towards him very clearly known. He is followed up by Eldemir the Wise, who basically lays out a plan to save the city at the expense of the people who are living in it. Patia doesn't even really bother to give him any time. She sort of excuses herself very briefly, but before she leaves...
As I pass Loris, I just... one more dagger as I pass by.
He stares at you as well.
I say, you will die tonight. A traitor. And not just to Avalier, but yourself.
We move over to the Golden Scythe now and to Nydas, who is commanding Alessander to disobey the Ring of Gold's orders and to take the skyships to try and get as many people off Avalier as possible and to forget about the Horde and all of the wealth that they've accrued. He gives this command as well to Captain Badron, and as he turns his back, the captain stabs him in the back. He states that at the beginning of time, the gods made all the gold that there would ever be in the world, but there will always be more people. Cold! But you know Nydas is not going to let him get away with that. He manages to drop him with the help of his dragon spirit in a single round.
Badron's sitting pretty at 101 hit points. Oh. Lou Wilson, how do you want to do this?
I'll say that I hit him with the evil eye, a move I used to use back in my pirate days of just like a squinting eye. And then I'm just going to ever so slowly place the blade exactly at his heart and then just walk forward. Badron, you are a pirate and I respect you. But Avalier comes before any oath I made in a past life.
And he falls dead.
Nydas goes to activate the taxmen so that they can defend the city, but the area has been infiltrated by these Kanauthi, and he can tell that they have been tampering with the constructs, specifically with the 4 taxmen that he used in the ritual, or not the ritual, the experiment with the astral layrite with Laren earlier that day. There are too many of them, and it looks like all hope is lost until The day is saved by Pharamine the Sphinx. What a fun throwback to what was kind of a rather silly character in episode 1. A bit of levity, you know, in this very stressful episode. Let's draw our attention now to Loquacious at the Herald's Tome. He starts powering up essentially the emergency broadcast system so he can make a broadcast to both the people of Avalier and the people of Cathmoira. But before he can begin his broadcast, a portal, a gate, opens up in front of him to the Feywild, to his home, and his Lady Elmanor of the Burning Veil is standing there calling back all of her children, essentially saying, this is not our fight, I can save you, I can't save anybody else. Loquacious steps forward and says, yes, of course, my lady, I will come, but then he casts Gift of Gab because he cannot leave Laren behind. Little side note here, Gift of Gab is a spell from the Acquisitions Incorporated sourcebook, so it comes from a parody D&D show, and I just think it's really funny that spell has made its way into Critical Role, which is often considered a very serious D&D show, but is used by a player who often engages in those kinds of comedic parodies. Loquacious walks by the desk of Elena Tavernus, and we get confirmation of a theory that I had that was right. Yay, I got something right for once. We learn that she did indeed discover that something had happened to Evandrin, and he fired her and covered it up to protect Laren. Loris of the Weaver's Mask again pops up to command him to order the people to follow the Ring of Gold's instructions, and he sort of says, oh yes, of course, absolutely, and then casts Wall of Force around him, even though Loris tries to counterspell it, and he begins his broadcast.
Good evening, Avalier and Cathmoira. No. Good evening, Toramunda. It is I, Loquacious Sealy. I report the news. Win, draw, or lose. I am your heartfelt, handsome herald, addressing you now for the last time. Fire. Mayhem. Chaos. But also hope. Fear is in the air, but the spirits of Avalier are strong, and our brothers and sisters in Cathmoira inspire us with their bravery, sincerity, and pure, forgiving hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, the replenishment is canceled. Our centuries-old bond severed, but our two cities are like a married couple. We may have our differences. We may not have the same goals. We may even separate for a time. But we are connected by love for eternity. We made a promise to each other, and it's one we must fulfill. Remember your Avalier siblings and the sacrifices we made for you. Remember Serit, the eyes of Avalier and his bravery. Remember Nydas, the dragon, and his sense. Remember Patia Porco, keeper of scrolls, and all the wisdom she brought. Remember brave Zerxus and Evandrin, the first knights of Avalier. And remember the Architect Arcane, Laren, the most beautiful woman in the world. And also, remember the Market of Wonders. Specializing in Mercer's discount spell ink. We'll beat the price of any other ink maker in town, or your next bottle is free. I'm Loquacious Sealy, and I'll drop my golden complexion and just use my true face, my true changeling face, saying, Sealy you later.
Brennan basically rules that this performance from Sam was a natural 20, just even without a dice roll, and so it allows a lot of people to escape as the administration heed those words and start moving all of the resources to help more people escape Avalier rather than saving just the city. As Loquacious moonwalks out of the Herald's Tome, we cut to Cathmoira and to Zerxus and Serit, who are going there to see Zerxus' son, Elias. Serit is basically just there to keep an eye on Zerxus because he's like, wow, you've got devil horns now? That's not cool. I'm making a lot of jokes in this part because, again, it emotionally ruined me. They head to Nydas's brother's home, which is where Elias is living, and he is standing in the doorway and he is holding a basket which has a spell kite in it, calling back to the very first episode where the spell kites arrived from Cathmoira and Zerxus looked out on the horizon, desperately hoping to get one from his son.
You have nothing to be sorry about.
I do, and you see, you haven't even looked in his hands. He's holding a basket with a spell kite attached. I don't know why I didn't send it.
It's okay.
I don't know why I didn't.
You don't need to explain yourself. I know why, and It's okay. It's okay. Elias, I love you. From the moment I laid eyes on you, everything that I wished for you to know about me, it's in this book. Take it with you. You'll always be 5 years old to me, no matter how much you grow.
Dad.
I have to go, and I leave. I jump back on Tempest.
Nobody is ever allowed to put kids in a D&D game. Nope, no more, okay? No more. Zerxus, hearing Loquacius's broadcast and seeing how it inspires the people, he commands all of the devils in Cathmoira to lay down their weapons, buying a little bit more time for people to escape. And we see the druids start to open portals through trees to let people escape. This is the same, or at least a very similar spell that we've seen Keyleth use in Campaign 1, and she also used it to help people escape a disastrous situation. Cutting back to the astral layrite, the party reconvenes, and there are only 2 minutes left to attempt this astronomical arcane feat. This attempt to send the primordials along a new ley line and to banish them from Exandria for good. How stunning was this map? It was absolutely gorgeous. As they are squaring up, getting ready to support Laren in her arcane attempts, Zerxus confesses that he made a deal with the Lord of the Hells and he asks Nydas to not let him become something that he isn't. And just then, the doors burst open and the 4 taxmen come rolling through along with Vesp and Chlorus. The party are absolutely tapped out and things are very dire, but they don't need to survive. They just need to survive long enough.
I look back to Laren and I say, you were meant to pilot us to the future, but now you will pilot us to salvation! Forever!
Now, I don't normally do a full combat breakdown, but this was one of the most intense battles I've seen, and there were some really fantastic moments, so we're gonna go round by round. If you'd like to skip, I've put the chapters down below, so you can skip ahead to the next section if you want. I probably have missed a couple of things, but here are the highlights. Seret kicks things off by attacking Vespin with his crossbow, bypassing Vespin's mirror image spell, but because his crossbow is not magical, it doesn't do as much damage as it, normally would. It's Nydas's turn, and we learn more about what the taxmen were built for. They were built for a potential war with Aor. They were built to slay mages. That is their entire purpose. They are immune to fire damage. They do damage proportional to the amount of spell energy that the target has. So if a target has a lot of high-level spell slots, they're going to take a lot more damage. They also have this cone of dispelling, which pulls spells off of people, and as the spells are pulled off, they do damage. These things sound so badass. I really want to see a stat block for these. Hopefully one day we might get to have a look at it. Nydas uses a cone of cold. Vespin attempts to counterspell but fails. Nydas attacks with his scimitar, and his dragon familiar Shak attacks the taxmen. Attacks the taxmen. Say that 10 times. The taxmen then attack Shak and Nydas, who manages to fend it off with his defender's scimitar. He declares, Zerxus, the bar has been set. Come meet me, brother. It's very exciting seeing Lou play a pirate again. I'm just saying. I missed it from Fantasy High. All this time, Vespin has been using his legendary actions to shoot firebolts at everybody. So, Laren, using a fragment of the celestial bow, casts Tasha's otherworldly guise, which is a awesome spell which lets her grow spectral wings and also makes her immune to fire damage, as well as a bunch of other super cool effects. So Vespin's firebolts are completely pointless against Laren. With a successful Arcana check, she contains the energy that is going to be let forth when she does send the primordials away, so it is no longer going to be cataclysmic, it's just going to be probably not great for Dominus. She has 2 more rounds to get it done. Patia casts Disintegrate on Vespin. He succeeds, so Laren uses her silvery barb so that he rolls again. He fails, but then he uses his legendary resistance to save. That was a roller coaster. Zerxus grapples one of the taxmen and helps to block the door, and he also casts Shield of Faith on Nydas, which is when Nydas can bring himself to look into his friend's eyes again. Loquacious casts Psychic Lance on Vespin, who again succeeds, so he uses his silvery barbs, but he still succeeds, but he still takes half damage. Then, as a bonus action, Loquacious gets down on one knee and proposes to Laren. He uses a raven feather instead of a wing, which is the second time that he has mentioned ravens or a connection to the Raven Queen. We're going to talk about that a little bit at the end of this. Vespin Misty steps towards Laren. Patia counterspells the Misty Step, but then he counterspells the counterspell. He wants to get close to Laren. Scythe does his rogue thing and sneak attacks with his axes. Vespin hits out at Patia with a firebolt. She only has 2 hit points left. Nydas climbs up Vespin's back, taking opportunity attacks from the taxmen. He casts shield, but one of them still manages to hit. He only has 3 hit points left. Nydas attacks Vespin. The taxmen attack Shaq the dragon, who is no more. And then the taxmen attacks... Oh my god, so hard to say. The taxmen attack Zerxus, who has spell slots left, so he takes a lot more damage. Laren casts Mirror Image, and she continues to work on the Layrite. She has to decide if she wants to assure the safety of the city of Avalir or assure the success of the banishment of the Primordials. And of course, that's what she chooses. We're going down with the ship. Patia casts Wall of Force around herself and Laren using the stained glass image of the city. They are trying to protect the world while the image of the city protects them. Patia then holds her next action to release her magical energy to Laren. This is something that Brennan allows, which I think is great because it was a fantastic narrative moment. Zerxus rushes to Vespin and takes one opportunity attack on the way, which downs him. As he goes down, he commands Tempest to get out of the room. Tempest manages to grapple one of the taxmen, fly it out the window, and then drop it down to smash onto the floor, and he escapes off into the night. Loquacious uses his turn to hold a healing word on Laren in case she goes down, which turns out to be a very, 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 very good idea. A 9th level power word kill comes to Laren. This is a no save spell. It is just if you have less than 100 hit points, you die. Scythe uses a reaction to attack him using his Mage Slayer feat, but then Loquacious uses Silvery Barbs on Scythe so that he can grant advantage to Patia on her counterspell roll. She rolls 2 dice and she gets 2 10s, failing in the counterspell. But as the power word kill rolls out, Brennan talks about some tricky interaction between the rules here because Vespin has been using shield, but he also counterspelled, and there's stuff with Scythe's reaction, so he basically just decides to leave it to one more roll of the dice.
No advantage, no disadvantage. You've got 1 chance to hit an armor class of 22.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Hawks out.
Natural 20!
Roll double damage if you'd be so kind.
Okay. That's 67 points of damage.
Oh my god!
With 35 hit points.
No fucking way.
Travis, how do you want to do this?
Come on, Mage Slayer.
Oh my god. I see Vespin aiming for Laren, and the hawk that he usually keeps in a concealed manner, the blade rests in the palm of your hand. You can fold your fingers over it, and that's it. He reaches back and lets it slide all the way down to the bottom of the handle so you get the maximum momentum, and he sinks it eye to eye straight into his temple and pulls it down.
With the yank on the hawk, you watch the light go out of his eyes. And a silhouette of him in flame is all that is left as his body is wrenched back to the bottom of the 9 hells.
Nydas attacks one of the taxmen, and then he readies his final attack to fall on his sword, driving it through Zerxus' heart if he should die. And he gives a final bardic inspiration to Scythe. The taxman hits out at Nydas, and he goes down, driving his sword into Zerxus as he does so. One of the taxmen casts that Dispelling Force feature on Patia, so she loses her Wall of Force and she goes down, and as she does, she releases all of her magical energy to Laren, helping to bump up the power to 100%. The only ones left standing are Laren, Loquacious, and Scythe. We're down to the final round now, and the taxmen attack Laren, and she is about to go down. She is about to die when Loquacious is there, ready with his healing word. The power of love brings brings her back. It's now Laren's turn, and this is it. This is the moment. She takes one more final bardic inspiration from Loquacious and rolls the Arcana check. With a roll of 32, as her friends lie dying around her, she completes her work and she banishes the primordials from Exandria forever. The Lord of the Hells realizes and he rages. And we get confirmation about another popular theory, which is that Dominus becomes the Shattered Teeth, that group of islands south of Taldore, because that is all that remains of the continent. As the world begins to shake and rumble around them, we see a ship leaving Avalier filled with sorceress children and Alessander. Nydas hears a sending from his brother and he assures him that he is safe and all will be well. And oh wow, this bit really gets me emotional. We get a beautiful scene where we have a memory. Oh no, I can't even do it. Oh, come on, you can do it. You can do it. And we get a beautiful scene where Nydas is remembering this moment with his brother, looking up at Avalier, just filled with so many hopes and so many dreams. Oh, I thought I had emotionally processed this episode. Obviously not. As Patia dies, she thinks of the many dreams to come, and she knows that her knowledge is not going to die with her. It is safe with Maya, hopefully for someone else to use in the future. Maybe the Bell's Hells. That would be really cool if you're listening to this, Matt Mercer. And Zerxus again makes a terrible choice.
Zerxus. You feel release. And let me ask you, your friend Nydas has given you this way out. The words of the Lord of the Hells were sweet and cloying. Does Zerxus take this chance to walk away?
In his, whatever remains of his consciousness, it's as if he has a knife to his own throat. But in the back of his mind, he knows in his heart that salvation and redemption is there for everyone.
The last thing you see as your body begins to immolate and burn, going to the place where Vespin went, is a griffin made of stars, called back to its feather, bearing on its back a young boy holding a journal.
Oh.
The griffin climbs and climbs, racing against the dawn. And the griffin opens a door into a sea of stars. Elias leaps into the arms of Evandrin, reunited.
Laren and Loquacious go down with the city, reunited.
I grab your hands and just stare into your eyes. And are you okay?
Yeah.
You did it.
I couldn't have done any of it without you.
Without all of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't the most romantic place in the world, but it sort of looks like a church.
Yeah. I think we have a little time.
And lastly, Seret speaks with his family through the Sending Stone. We hear from his wife. It's unclear. I thought maybe that they were separated. They could be, but of course, times of tragedy often bring people together, and he promises that he is going to find them. Seret leaves the Meridian Labyrinth, escaping as everything is crashing and burning. Laren telepathically guides him to the nearest exit, and we have our final roll of the game, an investigation roll from Seret with a DC of 30. And he rolls the same as his first roll in this game, 31. He escapes and he spends weeks flying to find his family.
I don't know that I can promise the future of Seret, his wife and their children, nor the future of those children aboard the ships of the Golden Scythe, nor Evandrin and Elias out amongst the stars. We've told a story of the coming of a time of darkness, the coming of calamity, of shadow and fire and ruin. Why do we tell stories? To try to make sense of a world that can be terrifying and enormous. In Exandria, I don't know that your story will long be known. I don't know who will remain to tell it. But it did happen, and it did matter. And though calamity is here because of you, it will not be here forever.
Oh gosh, I really thought I was like prepared for filming this, but obviously not. How embarrassing. What an absolutely incredible series. I think this series really showed the power of role-playing games and how impactful they can be and how much they can mean, and the wonderful stories that you can tell with your friends. It's just incredible. It's amazing. Now, before we finish up, I do have some unresolved questions that I would also love to hear your thoughts about. Number one is, I'm so curious to know about Loquacious' relationship to the Matron of Ravens, to the Raven Queen, because I think there might be something there, and I think Sam was maybe trying to get that out a little bit in the last episode, because we have that moment where he died in the first part of the episode and his face morphed into that of the mask of the Matron of Ravens. And then we also had this moment at the end where he uses a raven's feather to propose to Laren. There's just that little bit of symbology there. So I'm wondering if he either secretly worshipped her or there was some kind of connection there. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Hopefully Sam might give us an answer in the roundtable discussion that's happening. Unfortunately, it's only happening on Twitter Spaces, but hopefully it will be available elsewhere. Yeah, hopefully we'll get an answer there. Number two is, what did Zerxus mean when he said that humans were already here? In that big screaming match that he had with Asmodeus, he said, you didn't create us, we have always been here. And I'm wondering what he meant by that, and wondering if there's some connection maybe to the Luxon and to all of that kind of stuff. It could have just been a choice of words, but you know me, I love to read into things too much and put too many details on things that maybe are not that important and were just spur of the moment thing that was said. Number three, where did Patia's orb end up? Is it still in Taldore? Is it still somewhere waiting to be discovered? Number four, did Scythe and his family survive? The answer is yes. There is no other answer. They did manage to survive the calamity. They had a long and happy life. Everything was great. They got a lot of therapy for their trauma. It was... Actually, I'm good. I answered my own question. Number five, are there still artifacts of Avalier out there in the oceans amongst their scattered teeth? There's got to be some stuff out. It would be so cool to think about, like, pieces of the Archsept and pieces of the Librarium Incantatum, like, down there in the ocean, just waiting for someone to find them. Number six, what happened to Zerxus? Is he still serving as a champion of the Lord of the Hells somewhere in the Nine Hells? I'm not sure how that would work after all the Betrayer gods were banished again to their prison planes, but is he still out there somewhere? How was he separated from the Mace of the Black Crown? Did he ever find redemption? What would have happened if Laren had failed? I'm really curious about what Brennan had planned if Laren didn't pass those Arcana checks. I'm sure he had something in the works, right? Because what would have happened if the Primordials were released? Because we've been told that the stakes are, if the Primordials are released, Exandria is done. It is finished. So yeah, I'm just really curious about what would have happened if she had rolled like really badly on all of her Arcana checks. Thank you so much for going on this wonderful journey with me. It has been absolutely delightful. I am very much looking forward though to seeing the Bells Hells again and getting back to our regular theorizing and getting more into the nitty-gritty of that series, which is a lot slower paced, so there's more time for us to really think about things and really uncover hidden details. So stay tuned for all of my videos coming out about that campaign. And hey, if you want to keep the conversation going and answer some of these questions that I've posited, feel free to jump into my Discord, where we have a whole section dedicated to Critical Role, and we all share our theories and our ideas, and we also collectively melt down in episodes like this one. I'd like to say a special thank you to my Patreons, and if you've enjoyed these videos and you would like to support me, you can do so for just $5 a month at Patreon, or you can also just do it here straight on YouTube by becoming a member. There's a button down below, and you get access to my podcast, Flump Friends. Until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves. It's been wonderful. It's been real, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!
That was masterful.